One early morning, as the first faint light of day filtered through the curtains, Anna stood before the bathroom mirror, her eyes fixed on her own reflection. Red rashes crisscrossed her arms, spreading down her chest and even appearing on her thighs, like vivid yet painful streaks on a painting she never wanted to create. Lupus had arrived unannounced, and now it left its mark on her skin, patches of red, inflamed, and burning, as if her body were screaming in silence, yet she could only stand there, helpless, feeling every sharp pang as she touched them. Anna, 42 years old, a single mother of two, had once been a woman brimming with life, filling her days with laughter and long runs in the park. But now, she felt like a stranger to herself, as if this illness had stolen not just her health but the person she used to know. She gently brushed a finger against a rash on her arm, the stinging sensation making her shiver. It had been 6 months since her diagnosis, and each day seemed to drag her deeper into despair. The joint pain, the relentless fatigue, and a fog in her mind that clouded her focus made even the simplest tasks feel insurmountable. She could no longer lift her daughter's school bag, couldn't fold laundry without stopping because her wrists burned like fire. "Mom, can you play with me?" Ethan, her 10-year-old son, had once asked with hopeful eyes, but he no longer did. Instead, she saw Lily, her 7-year-old daughter, drawing pictures of mommy sleeping instead of mommy smiling. Those drawings cut into her heart like a knife, but she didn't know how to change it. She felt herself fading, little by little, in the eyes of those she loved most. The days passed in a haze of pain and despair. Anna stopped going to the small bookstore where she once worked, where she'd spend hours arranging novels and chatting with customers about their favorite stories. The pity in their eyes, the hushed voices asking, "Are you okay?" were more than she could bear. She wasn't okay. She was falling apart. One night, after the children were asleep, Anna sat alone at the kitchen table, a cup of cold chamomile tea in front of her. She stared at the pile of medical bills on the counter, papers she couldn't bring herself to open. Tears fell, not because of the money, but because of what they represented: a life she didn't choose, a battle she didn't know how to fight. "I can't keep going like this," she whispered, her voice breaking in the empty room. She felt like she was drowning, as if the illness were a tide pulling her under, and she had no strength to swim. The peak of her anguish came one morning when Anna woke to find the rashes had spread further, redder and more burning than ever. She couldn't get out of bed, couldn't move without feeling like her body was disintegrating. She lay there, staring at the ceiling, tears silently soaking her pillow. "I can't do this anymore," she thought, her heart heavy. She felt she had lost everything: her health, her joy, and herself. Hope, to her in that moment, was like a foreign word, a language she no longer understood. Yet sometimes, in our darkest moments, a tiny flicker of light appears, not because we seek it, but because it finds us. For Anna, that flicker came from an unexpected place, a path she had never considered, one that would change everything. The days that followed were far from easy for Anna. The lupus seemed indifferent to her tears or despair, attacking relentlessly, pulling her into a vortex of pain and frustration. The red rashes spread further, each day a new challenge as she faced unrelenting joint pain and bone-deep exhaustion. Some mornings, she woke feeling like her body was made of lead, her joints so stiff she could barely move. The simple act of getting out of bed became a battle, one she often lost, lying there, gazing at the faint light through the window, wondering if she would ever find herself again. The emotional toll was even heavier than the physical pain. Anna felt like she was failing everyone: her children, her friends, and herself. She snapped at Ethan for asking too many questions, then spent hours crying in her room, guilt gnawing at her. She stopped answering Sarah's calls, her closest friend, not because she didn't want to talk, but because she didn't know what to say. How could she explain the storm inside her, the way despair clung to her like a second skin? "I'm so tired of being tired," she muttered to herself, her voice barely audible, as she sat on the couch staring at the walls. She felt trapped in quicksand, sinking deeper with every struggle, and the more she fought, the worse it got. There were moments when she wanted to give up entirely. One afternoon, after a particularly severe lupus flare, she sat in her doctor's office, hands clenched in her lap. "I don't know how much longer I can do this," she admitted, her voice trembling. The doctor, a kind woman with graying hair and a gentle smile, looked at her with unjudging eyes. "You're stronger than you think, Anna," she said softly. "But there are things medicine cannot heal." Those words echoed in Anna's mind as she drove home, but they hadn't yet reached her heart. She was too consumed by her own pain, too overwhelmed by the weight of her illness to see a way forward. The turning point came unexpectedly, unlike any path Anna had ever imagined. One morning, forcing herself to leave the house for some air after weeks of self-imposed confinement, she passed by a small community center near her home. There, she noticed a sign advertising a pottery class, designed for those facing life's challenges. Something about the sign stopped her, perhaps the image of a rustic clay vase or the words "Rediscover yourself through your hands." She didn't know why, but she decided to step inside, if only to try once, if only to escape the burning rashes tormenting her skin. The class was led by an elderly woman named Han, with bright eyes and a voice as gentle as a lullaby. She didn't ask about Anna's illness or her reasons for being there, simply placing a soft lump of clay into her hands and saying, "Let your hands tell your story." Anna hesitated, but as she began to mold the clay, the cool sensation under her fingers surprised her. She didn't aim to create anything specific, just molded, just felt, letting her hands guide her. Gradually, she realized that each time she kneaded the clay, she was releasing a piece of the burden in her heart. The red rashes remained, but they no longer dominated her thoughts. Instead, she focused on the clay, on how it transformed under her hands, and for the first time in months, she felt she could control something. Han watched from a distance, occasionally offering gentle suggestions. "Sometimes, we don't need to fight the pain," she said, her voice a soft whisper. "We just need to let it flow through, like clay flows through your hands." Those words struck Anna deeply. She began attending the class every week, bringing her pain and despair with her, but each time she molded clay, she felt them lighten a little. She created small bowls, strange shapes, and sometimes just misshapen lumps, but each piece was a part of her, a fragment of the journey she was on. Through pottery, she found not only healing for her soul but also a way to reconnect with herself, a method she had never considered, yet one that was changing her from within. The pottery classes became Anna's remedy, a refuge from the physical pain and emotional turmoil. Each time she stepped into the classroom, she felt like she was entering a different world, one without red rashes, medical bills, or pitying glances. There was only her, the clay, and a stillness she never thought she'd find. Han never pressured her to speak about her struggles, but she was always there, with gentle words and knowing eyes, as if she had witnessed 1,000 stories like Anna's. With each session, Anna began to change. She no longer saw the rashes on her body as a curse. Instead, she started to view them as traces of a journey, a story she was telling through each piece of pottery she crafted. One day, she molded a small vase with rough, uneven lines, mirroring her own skin, and when she looked at it, she felt an acceptance she had never known before. "My body isn't perfect," she thought, "but it's still mine, and I can still create beautiful things." The change wasn't limited to how she saw herself. Anna started bringing her pottery home, placing them on the dining table, and her children Ethan and Lily grew curious. "Mom, did you make this?" Lily asked, her eyes lighting up as she touched a small bowl with soft curves. Anna nodded, and for the first time in months, she saw her daughter beam with pride while talking about her. She began talking to the children about what she was going through, using simple words they could understand. "Mom isn't always well," she said gently, "but I'm learning to love my body, just like I love you." Ethan hugged her tightly, and Lily drew a new picture, this time Mom with clay, with a smile on her face. Anna also began reconnecting with the outside world. She invited Sarah, her closest friend, over and, for the first time in months, opened up. "I thought I couldn't go on," she said, her voice steady but firm, as they sat at the kitchen table with her clay bowls in front of them. Sarah listened, and when Anna finished, she took her friend's hand and said, "I've never seen you stronger than you are now." It was a small moment, but it meant the world to Anna. It reminded her she wasn't alone, that there were people who loved her for who she was, scars and all. She returned to the bookstore, starting with a few hours a week, enough to rediscover the joy of books and conversations with customers. She brought a small clay bowl, placing it on her desk as a reminder of her journey. Her coworkers didn't ask much, but they smiled when they saw her, and for the first time in a long time, Anna felt part of the world, not as a victim of her illness, but as a woman rediscovering herself, step by step. Hope, she realized, wasn't a destination she could reach. It was a journey, a series of small choices to keep going, to trust, even when the path ahead was unclear. Pottery had taught her that she could create beauty from imperfection, that she could heal not by fighting the illness, but by learning to live with it and loving herself in the process. Time passed, and Anna didn't just find herself, she surpassed what she ever thought she could achieve. The woman once imprisoned by red rashes and despair now stood taller, her eyes brighter, her heart fuller. She didn't just survive lupus, she thrived, becoming a living testament to the power of resilience and hope. The illness remained, a quiet companion in her life, but it no longer controlled her. Instead, Anna turned it into part of her story, one she was proud to tell. The guidance of her special mentors, especially the pottery classes with Han, became an indispensable part of Anna's life, and she didn't just participate, she became a mentor to others. She began organizing small workshops at the community center, specifically for those facing chronic illnesses, inviting them to mold clay so they too could find healing as she had. "Our hands can tell stories words cannot," she told them, her voice warm and inspiring, like someone who had walked through darkness and found light. The participants in her classes, from young adults to the elderly, found solace in the clay, and through it, they found hope. Anna's life blossomed in ways she never imagined. She started selling her pottery at local markets, and soon, her story spread. People didn't just buy her bowls and vases, they bought the story behind them, the tale of a woman who turned pain into art and despair into hope. Anna was invited to speak at events, sharing her journey, and her warm, sincere voice touched the hearts of hundreds. She became a symbol of resilience, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there was a way to create beauty. Her relationship with her children deepened more than ever. Ethan and Lily weren't just proud of their mom, they joined her in pottery sessions, molding clay beside her and laughing as if there had never been days when she could only lie in bed. One day, Ethan came home with a school medal and said, "I want to make you proud, like you've made me proud." Anna hugged him tightly, tears streaming down her face, but this time they were tears of joy. She had shown her children the meaning of never giving up, a legacy greater than any piece of pottery. One evening, as the sun set, painting the sky with vibrant shades of gold and pink, Anna stood at the local market, surrounded by her handmade creations. She held a small clay vase, its rough surface beautiful in its imperfection, like her own life. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, feeling joy flood her heart. "Some pains are born to lead us to the light," she thought, her heart full of gratitude. Anna had transformed her journey into a radiant victory, a modern fairy tale of healing, love, and the unbreakable strength of the human spirit. Thank you for joining Anna on this inspiring journey. If her story has touched your heart, please subscribe to the Conquer and Heal channel today to discover more stories of healing and inner strength. Share this video with your loved ones to spread hope together. We can all find light, even in our darkest days. See you in the next video.